Okay. When I talk about the syllabus for this class, I am referring to the document that I handed out, not to that link called syllabus on Canvas that is auto-generated. That one just gives you, I guess, the deadlines that are coming up. But when I'm talking about the syllabus, I'm talking about this document, either the printed form or the file that is on Canvas. Uh, yeah. All right, so this is LAS 150, Introduction to Latin American and Latinx Studies, Spring 2026. The class meets Tuesdays and Thursdays. This section, section 1, meets from 12:30 to 1:45. It was originally scheduled to be in room 224, but it's going to be in 303, the room we're in now. My name is Gerardo Licon. My email, my phone number, my office. So my office is in this building in Hibbard, third floor, right over by the elevators, 353. I have office hours Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday and Thursday, they're from 4 to 5. Fridays from 1 to 2. And you can just show up, or you can make use of one of these links, the link, or copy paste, or scan this image to make an appointment during my office hours. If my office hours don't work for you, then email me and we can come up with a different date and time that works for both of us. I'm not going to read the whole syllabus. Please read it on your own. When you take this class, you do fulfill the responsibility outcome number 2 and integration learning requirements. This is the textbook for this class. Is there any issues to report? Did the bookstore run out of them or anything like that? Anyone encounter any issues? Okay. It is a rental, so you should be able to rent it for free from the bookstore. All right. In this class, we have 4 tests. Each test is worth 10% of your final course grade. The last of those tests is the quote unquote final for the class. All the tests are multiple choice. So tests are the biggest part of your grade, followed by homework. Homework is 35% of your grade. There's a homework assignment due each week of the semester. It is typically based on either half a chapter or a full chapter from this book, plus, so am I saying that right? Yes. The homework is 1 chapter per week. Sometimes it's only half a chapter. And in addition to that, there'll be an additional weekly either documentary, film, or additional reading. And so it'll be 1 chapter plus a film or documentary typically. Sometimes it's a different reading. You turn in your homework once a week. It is due by 10 a.m., even though class starts later. It's due by 10 a.m. because that way I have some time to try to go over the homework that you turned in, identify any problem questions that come up so that I can make sure and address those once we meet in class after the day you turned in your homework right after that. There's no grade specifically for attendance. There is for participation. For participation, there is a daily, what I call mini quiz. For each day of class, there's a mini quiz. That the ideal time for you to complete it is an hour before class. That mini quiz will include the assigned reading for that day or film for the week. and the previous class lecture. So yeah, that's typically what's on the mini quiz. The questions, the question bank that the mini quizzes draw from are the same question banks from which the test questions come from as well. So those mini quizzes are very practical. They may be the exact same questions that end up on the test. So it gives you a good idea of the types of questions that I make based on the films, based on the reading, and based on lecture. So hopefully you find them very useful and practical. They're only worth 5%. I say that ideally they get completed within an hour before class, but there is a lot of flexibility. Starting with today you didn't have to do one before class. And I think I give you a whole month to do the first one because some students add late and stuff like that. And the first one is just practice. You don't need to have read anything in advance or, done any readings. The first practice one is basically based on the syllabus. So if you read the syllabus or you hear my explanation of the syllabus, you'll be prepared to do that. So for day number 2, before day number 2, before next class, you're gonna complete today's mini quiz and the one for day 2 for Thursday. And they're not worth that much. All of the mini quizzes for each day of class add up to only 5% of the final course grade. There is each student is expected to do one presentation in front of the class for the whole semester. And then after that, you turn in a report based on that presentation. That is worth 10% of your final course grade. The presentation is only 4 minutes long, and you do have the option to pre-record it. So, especially if you think you'll get nervous standing in front of the class and talking, you can pre-record it and just hit play, but still be here for questions and answers and the multiple choice questions, which I'll explain in greater detail later. The report based on your presentation is 3 to 4 pages long. You will need to sign up on Canvas for a date in which you want to do your presentation. And then there's also a discussion board where you claim the topic that you'd like to present on. There is a class Facebook page, Lacone's Introduction to Latin American Studies. This is not required and it is not graded, but it is a place where it is often the most convenient place for me to relay information about extra credit opportunities or current events that relate to the class. And so I recommend you go to the class Facebook page and click like, but again, it's not graded, not required. If in case it's a concern, do know that when you click like on the class Facebook page, it doesn't mean that you and I are now Facebook friends and can now see each other's stories and pages and pictures and whatnot. No, it's a third space. And whether you can see my pictures or anyone can see yours has to do with your privacy settings and not with the fact that you clicked like on the class Facebook page. So in case that's a concern. There is a requirement of what I call an outside activity. It is worth 5% of your final course grade. And that is that at least one time in this semester, you need to attend or engage in an activity that is not required for this class, but that relates to the class. It can be an event on campus. It could be, I've had students go to Cancun for spring break and then do something related to the class while they're there. I've had students go other places during spring break. I don't know, a museum in Minneapolis or the Twin Cities or stuff like that. So anything that relates to the class that is not required by the class. It can also include, like, if there's a new Hollywood movie that comes out this semester. It can also be uh, like new things, new series or films on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Netflix, whatever streaming service you subscribe to or that you have access to through the university. With regards to films and documentaries and series, the biggest limitation is that it has to be something that came out in 2025 or 2026. It cannot be older than that. So that's the biggest limitation there. No hand? Okay. For this outside activity, the way you turned in, demonstrate that you participated in this or watched this or whatever, is you turn in 2 pages, typed up pages, 1 page summary, half a page reflection, and half a page on how it relates to the class. You don't have to get the event or the film or the TV series or the documentary pre-approved, unless you're not 100% sure whether it relates to the class. If it's unclear whether it relates to the class, then you should get it pre-approved. But if it's obvious, you don't need to. You can just go ahead and do it or attend or watch. And so one outside activity is required for 5% of your final course grade, but you can do additional ones. Each additional outside activity is worth 2% extra credit, and you can do up to 3 extra credits for a total of an additional 6% boost on your final course grade. Now, the extra credits they're kind of staggered. So if you want to be able to turn in 3, the first one needs to be in, I forget, like 6 weeks before the end of the semester. And so you can't turn in all 3 on the last week of class. They're staggered. There's also a learning outcome assignment. And in the spring semester, we do that on learning the integration outcome that has to do with these 3 statements. Basically, you identify 3 instances in the class in which you had these experiences. And, this can be very wordy. And so on Canvas, the way I have the assignment set up, I give you this language and then I give you kind of a simplified version of it. And, just to make it easier to understand what I'm asking for. Some students are able to take care of this during the first month. You just find 3 instances during the semester, and they can be during the first month in which you have these experiences. But I'll talk more about that later. It can be a little confusing. Academic honesty and plagiarism. It's basically don't cheat. If you cheat, you'll be penalized. Because the tests for this class are multiple choice, there are websites and phone apps that are helpful for students to help them study and prepare for those tests. And I do not mind if you use those. What I ask of you, however, is that you make sure that your settings are set to private so that if you create online flashcards, they aren't available for anyone online to access them. So you can use them to help you do better on tests, do the best you can. But again, make them private. Don't make them available to anyone online. Hmm. I thought I had put something here on AI, but I don't see it. All right. So I'll mention it. And then I'll put it on here too and let you know. So everything that you turn in, every assignment you turn in for this class gets run through the Turnitin software. The Turnitin software checks for plagiarism and also checks for AI, whether it was written by artificial intelligence. And so, yeah, just know that. I don't mind students using, for example, Grammarly, which helps students with their writing. But now even Grammarly has an AI option, so not everything in Grammarly is acceptable anymore, unfortunately. So yeah, just use AI to help you with your work. I do think AI is an important tool that people should know how to use, but ultimately you are responsible for what you turn in, and I also hope you don't forget to learn while you're a college student and not just work on getting a specific passing grade. So don't forget to learn while you're here. And again, ultimately, you have to be responsible for what you turn in. What I'm thinking behind that is it doesn't matter whether you're assembling, putting together hamburgers, writing architecture floor plans, or I don't know, a lawyer or whatever it is you go on to do, or in healthcare industry. There's going to be technology and there's going to be artificial intelligence. There's going to be tools that help you do your job. But you are the one that needs to know whether the technology that you're using to assist you is getting it right or wrong. Because ultimately, like I said, you need to be responsible for the final product. Um, whether whether technology exists that helps you, do your job faster or better or whatever. You need to know better in order to know whether it's being done right or not. So that's my little spiel. If anyone requires any accommodations, make sure you connect with the Office for Services for Students with Disabilities. And so, yeah, and do not wait until the week before the first test. I have some students that have already taken care of this before the first day of class. Good job to you. But anyone who needs it, try to get it done as early as possible so that we make sure we can get you any accommodations that you need. Um, yep. Email. Like I mentioned before, anytime you email me, please let me know what class and section you're in. It's very common for me to get an email that says, Professor Lacone, I'm in your LAS class. I got a quick question for you. This is what it is. And, you know, my class might be the only LAS class that you're taking, but all of the classes I teach are LAS classes, so it doesn't narrow it down for me. So you're in 150, section one. It only saves me a minute, but when you have 120 students per semester, those minutes add up. So just appreciate if you could save me a little bit of time. Um, so yeah, let me know class and section. I try to get back to email as soon as possible. My goal is to get back to you by the next, by the, how do I say this? By the next business day. So, um, but yeah, I try to do it as early as possible. And so, yeah, if you're emailing me right before class, I'm unlikely to get back to you before class. If you email me at 2 in the morning, I'm not going to get back to you in the middle of the night, um, and so forth, or on weekends and all that. So you can email me whenever, but I'm just not promising that I'm going to get back to you immediately. I don't know. Like, I think of it as like if we were text buddies, no, no. Um, we got a different relationship. All right. Some important deadlines like last day to register, last day to drop, and so forth. Today is January 27th. And let's see. So I do record most lectures, and you can access those recordings on Canvas. Let me show you where I have those. So if you go to LAS 150, assignments, and then under participation, there is day one. And maybe before I explain that, I'll point this out. Whenever I share what Canvas looks like for me, uh, it looks different from what your default, because for students, their default on Canvas is show by date. So it's based on deadlines of upcoming and past things. And my default is show by type. And so whenever I show you things, I'm showing you this show by type. So yeah, if it ever you're wondering why it looks different, what I'm showing you from what Canvas looks like for you, that is why. All right, so participation, day one. So for each day of class, there's two, I don't know, links. In the first one, day one, it's not graded. Here I give you information that is relevant for class on that day. And that is also where I have links to lecture recordings. Some of the ones that are on there now don't work because they're from last semester. They're done through Zoom, and Zoom automatically deletes them after 6 months. But I will update the links that don't work. I'll update them as soon as possible, certainly by the next day. And so, yeah, the ones that are by Zoom are the ones that go away. The ones that are saved on as YouTube links, those do not go away. They last longer. Um, and some of the ones on YouTube, I will not update unless I make big changes to my lecture. Then I'll re-record and re-upload to YouTube and then update the link to Canvas. So two links. One of them gives you information, including those links to lectures, and the other one is a link to the mini quiz for that day. And so for this first one, for example, um, it's worth 3 points. You can take the mini quizzes twice. It'll show you. Uh, it looks like I don't have it set up. I usually have it set up so that it'll show you the correct answers after taking it twice. So making a note to myself to update that. All right. Click like on the class Facebook page. Oh yeah, download homework. I'll show you where that is. So from LAS 150 on Canvas, again, go to assignments. The first module is participation. The second one is homework. And there you'll see the homework. The first one is due this Thursday based on chapter 1 and what's that? Less than 30 minutes of a documentary, and then less than 20 minutes of another one, a TED Talk. Um, and that first homework I also consider practice. So um, yeah, to figure out how to turn things in and that kind of stuff. If there's anyone who doesn't have the textbook yet, I do have a link to the chapter 1 of the textbook on there as well. I encourage you to put a picture of your face on Canvas to help me know who's who. And so, yeah, do that when you get a chance, please. It's helpful for me to learn names and know who's who. And I think I'm actually going to postpone this for the moment. Yeah.